Hello, and welcome back to another episode of At Home with APS. I'm Mrs. K, and I'm going to be joined by three other very talented teachers, Miss Kraft, Miss Kathy, and Miss Lori. And again, today we've prepared for you an English language arts lesson that's geared for our students in second and third grade. But we welcome children and adults of all ages, wherever you are, wherever you're sitting right now, however old you are, we're glad you're here with us. And we welcome you. So let's get started. The last couple weeks, we were focused on inventions and inventors. And we're going to move to a new unit of study today about the environment and the world around us. So that means we have a new essential question. It's behind me here in green. Isn't that a beautiful poster? Our new essential question is, how do we react to changes in nature? Wow, let's think about that a minute. How do we, as humans, react to changes in nature? We're going to really be exploring the idea of nature and how nature impacts us as human beings, and also how we impact nature and our environment. These next couple weeks, I'm excited to see all the learning that we'll do together. When I was looking at this question, you know what came to mind for me when I thought about changes in nature? I thought some about weather and how weather impacts the world around us. I also thought about two really important ideas, water and wind. Can you think of ways that water changes the world around us? One idea I had, I'm going to show you a picture. Some of you might recognize this place or this river. For those of you living in New Mexico, you're really familiar with this river. This is the Rio Grande. And this picture was taken at the Rio Grande Gorge. This is a place I like to go with my friends. It's up in northern New Mexico. And if you can see on this picture, the river's way down here, but there's a valley that starts way up here. How do you think that valley or that gorge was formed? Did you know that this was formed because this river has been flowing for many, many, many years and has eroded away the land around it? So it used to be parallel with the land, and as it eroded the land, it created this beautiful gorge or this beautiful valley. Water can be really powerful. We'll talk more about that tomorrow or Friday. I also have another picture for you. Now, this land wasn't changed by water necessarily. Have any ideas what made these rock formations? Wind. This is taken in Arches National Park, which is in Utah. I went there on a vacation a while ago with my family, and we saw these beautiful rock formations that were carved out from lots and lots of wind over many, many, many years. So we know that wind and water and changes in weather can make really big impacts on landforms and the earth. And as we're working this week, we're also going to talk about how weather and climate and the environment can impact us in smaller ways, as well as really big ways. So, in order to get into our learning today, we should start with our vocabulary word of the day. This is a long word. As you can see, this barely fit on my board. It's so long. Some of you can probably read that, or you might even recognize it. This is the word environment. Say it with me. Environment. How many syllables does that have? Environment. Wow, that's a long word. Now, when we're thinking about the environment, you might be able to make a connection to something you've learned at school, or maybe to some things you do at home, ways that you take care of the environment. Today we're going to talk about this word on kind of a big scale and a smaller scale. First, let's read the definition together. Are you ready? An environment are the surroundings in which a person, an animal, or a plant live. So our surroundings. What do you think of when you think of your environment or your surroundings? We can think on a large scale. If you're one of our viewers that lives in New Mexico, you might think of the whole state. Our environment includes mountains and rivers and the bosque and fields and plains. But you might also think about your environment as something a little bit smaller. Maybe your neighborhood. Maybe your environment is the South Valley or up near the mountains. Or can your environment be something even smaller? Like maybe your home. Our homes are environments as well. Wow, I want you to take a minute to think about your environment. It can either be the room you're sitting in, or maybe your neighborhood, or your city, or your state. Think about what that area looks like to you. I want you to keep that picture in your mind because we're going to use it as we fill in our Frayer model together. Now, if you've been working with us the last couple weeks, you're pretty familiar with this Frayer model that I have behind me that we'll work on in just a minute. Remember, it's a graphic organizer, which is a rectangle, as well as an oval and a couple of lines that we draw, and it helps us to show our thinking, to show what we know about a word. Many of you have already made your vocabulary journals by making this shape on lots of pieces of paper. If you missed the episode where we talked about how to do that, you can find it on our YouTube channel. It's the very first episode where we talk about how to create your vocabulary journal. So if you don't have that, it's okay. Maybe after this episode, you can go back and watch that first episode and see how to make it. And if you have it, go ahead and get it out. We're going to use it right now. Okay? Okay, so I have my Frayer model here, and I'm going to use this to talk about this very important word of the day. What was that word of the day? Environment. Exactly. That's a really long word. So I had to make my circle pretty large. I've already written the word environment in the middle. You go ahead and write that word as well. After you have that written, do you remember what goes up here? That's right, the definition. Let's go back to our definition and read it together before we write it. Surroundings in which a person, animal, or plant lives. You write that definition while I write it. Awesome. Okay, so we have our word and our definition. Now this next part, do you remember what goes there? That's right, those synonyms, those words with similar meanings. Ooh, I bet you can think of a lot of synonyms for environment. Maybe something you've heard at school when we talk about where an animal lives. Did you think of the word habitat? That's a good one. I'm going to write that in our synonyms box. Can you think of another one? How about home? Could our home be our environment? Yeah, if we're thinking about our surroundings on a smaller level, absolutely. our home is part of our environment. Now these next two parts, you're going to do on your own. I'm going to change it a little bit, make it a little bit more difficult, because I know you're ready for a challenge. We have been using this box to write a sentence with the word environment in it. We're going to change that today. Today in this box, I want you to write a description of your environment. Now remember, this can be your home. You can describe the different rooms of your home, or you can describe your environment on a larger level, maybe your neighborhood, or the part of town you live in, or maybe even your whole state. It's up to you. Now when we're writing this, I want you to think about using those descriptive words, those adjectives. Tell me what your environment looks like, what it sounds like, maybe what it smells like. I bet you can add a lot of detail. In fact, this box might not be big enough. You might have to write this on a separate sheet of paper. And then here in our last box, this is usually where we draw an illustration of our sentence. This time I want you to draw a picture of the environment that you described. I can't wait to see what you do. I know your writing and your art is going to be really lovely. Next, we have a wonderful activity with Miss Kraft, where she's going to be talking a little bit about grammar. I'm excited to see what she has for you. Keep up the good work. Happy writing.
Hello friends, and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some special words. I'm going to say a few words, and I want you to tell me what you notice. Ready? Teacher, lion, beach, book. Did you notice anything about those words? If you said they are all nouns, you are so right. Pat yourself on the back for that. Remember, nouns are people, places, things, ideas, or animals. And those nouns that I said are a specific type of word. Do you remember what that's called? They are singular nouns. Exactly. All right, I'd like to play a game with you today. I'm going to say a noun, and I want you to tell me if it's singular by holding up one finger, and if it's not singular, I'd like you to put your hands on your lap. Are you ready? All right, let's play. Book. Students. School. Teacher. Dog. Cats. Animal. All right, how did you do? I bet you did wonderful. You held up one finger, meaning singular. Remember, singular means just one thing. If it was more than one, you just kept your hands in your lap, and I bet you did great. Good job. You guys are so smart. All right, so now that we know a little bit about singular nouns, I want to talk about another specific type of noun. It's still a person, place, thing, idea, or animal, but it means more than one. Does anybody remember what that's called? If you said plural, you are absolutely right. So singular means one, and plural means more than one. All right, let's play another game. I'm going to say some nouns, and I want you to hold up a finger if it's singular, a number one, or a hand is our signal for plural nouns. All right, are you ready? Let's try this. Ocean. Did you hold up a one? Good job. Peanuts. Did you hold up a whole hand? Perfect. All right, let's try these on your own. Grandma. Student. Teachers. shark, oceans, dogs, cat. All right. I bet you did great. So now you know the difference between a singular noun, which is one, and a plural noun, which is more than one. All right. What I'd like to do now is talk about how we make our words plural. Because remember, in English, in grammar, we have rules. We have rules, and normally when we make something plural, we add an S. But that's not always the case with our English language. Sometimes we have exceptions to that rule. Let's think about that word, exception. What does that mean? I want to talk about maybe making it more clear for you. So when you're at school, schools have lots of rules, don't they? And that's important. And one of the rules that every school has is that you can't run in the halls. If you run in the hall, say you're eating lunch and you run out to recess, you might be stopped by an adult who tells you to walk. Has that happened to you? I know it's happened to me when I was young. So we have rules. However, can you think of a time at school when you might have to run in the halls? That would be an exception. So if you have a grown-up with you, or you have another student watching with you, turn to them and tell them why it might be that you might need to have an exception to the rule of running in the school halls. Maybe somebody was in trouble and you had to run to the principal's office to get help. That's definitely an exception to that school rule. All right, so now we understand a little bit about what that word exception means. And so when we make nouns plural, we add an S normally, but then we have many words that are exceptional. So we make them differently. All right, so I'm going to go back to my chart back here, and we're going to talk about ways to make some nouns plural. Some of them will be in the normal way of adding an S, but some of them will do just a little bit differently. Let's start out with our first one. My chart back here, you can see it says you change. If your word ends in Y, you add an I plus an ES. So let's think about this word, bunny. How am I going to make bunny plural? Well, I'm going to drop my Y and I'm going to add IES. Did you get that? You probably did. You're so smart. Let's go ahead and put that up here. Our bunnies are going to go there. All right, let's think about our next word. Our next word, you ready, is lion. How are we going to make lion plural? Well, this is one of our easy ones, right? We're just going to add the S and it becomes lions. So we'll put that up on our chart right here. All right, you ready for the next one? Now this one's a little different. Our word is box. Could I add an S on box? I could, but I think it would be hard to say. It'd be boxes. I'm not sure how we do that. So we need to have an exception to our rule. We are going to add an ES, and it becomes boxes, right? B-O-X-E-S, boxes. We'll put that in our third spot. All right, let's try some more. You guys are going to be really good at this. Our word is baby. I see a Y. What am I going to do? I'm going to drop that Y, and I'm going to add an IES. So our word becomes babies. Right. Let's add that in our chart right there. You ready for another? Now this is a different one. I'm going to see what you think about this one. The word is day. but I have a Y on there, don't I? Let me show you how we're going to make this plural. This one is going to be one of the simple ones where we just add an S. But hang on, I'm going to revisit this and explain to you why we only add an S on this instead of dropping the Y. Let's put that in our middle box and we'll return to that. All right, let's try this one. Watch. Could I add an S after the H? That's kind of a funny looking word to me, isn't it, if I add an S, and I don't know how to pronounce an H and an S. So this one, I'm going to have to add that E to make it easier to say, so it becomes watches. All right, did you get that? If you did, awesome job. I'm going to put my watches up here, right next to my boxes. So we have an X, we need the ES. We have an H, we also need the ES. All right, let's try another one. This is a word that we all love, right? Puppy. So how are we going to make this plural? Can you say it to a grown-up in the room or another student that's with you? If not, just say it into the TV. We're going to drop the Y and add IES. Awesome. Puppies. Okay, so here's the one I wanted to talk to you about. This is super interesting. So I have the word monkey. Why do I not just drop the Y and add IES? Let me explain to you why. What letter is next to the Y? It's an E, right? An E is a vowel. So if you have a vowel and a Y, you just add the S. Let's go back and look back here. So if I have puppy, I had a consonant and then a Y. So I had to drop the Y and add IES. So consonant becomes IES. Vowel is just add the S. Let's go back to that day. Remember I said I was going to come back to this? We had a vowel and then a Y. So we're just going to add an S. You got that? So you guys already know that? If so, you're awesome. Let's try one more. Buzz. Am I going to be able to add an S to this? That might be kind of funny. So buzz is going to add, go ahead and say it. It's going to add an ES, right? It's going to become buzzes. All right, good job. Look at our charts filling up. So I want to stop there for right now, and I want to ask you, after we're done with our show today, if you would go into your writing journals that you've created. If you don't have one, it's fine. You can use a notebook or a piece of paper, and I would like you to write some sentences. So let me move this so you can see my sentence poster back here. And I would like you to write some sentences for me using a singular noun and a plural noun in the same sentence. If you think that might be a little too challenging, no problem. Go ahead and write one sentence with the singular and then one sentence with the plural. Remember, when you're writing sentences, we want to make sure we have a complete sentence, right? Your sentence should start with that capital letter. You should put a finger space in between every word so that it's legible. Always make sure you have an end mark. Usually it's a period, but go ahead and write an exclamation point or maybe ask a question. And then make sure your sentence makes sense. So read it when you're done. If you wrote, the boy ice cream likes, that might not make as much sense as the boy likes ice cream. All right? So I'm excited to hear about your sentences. Thank you.
Hi readers, it's Miss Kathy here. and I'm so excited to be your teacher today. I heard Miss K talk about a really important word today, environment. Go ahead and try saying that word, environment. This is a very important word, and I love the definition we have for it because it talks about where a person, an animal, or a plant lives. Today I'm going to be reading you a book that I love. It's a beautiful story, and it talks about one environment in particular. Now, before I tell you, I kind of want you to guess. So I'm going to tell you some of the animals that live in this environment. And if you think you can figure it out, give a thumbs up to the other people in the room who are watching with you. Don't shout it out because they're trying to figure it out too. And then we'll all say it at the same time. So the environment we're going to be reading a book about today has animals that live in there, a lot of animals, and some of them are a boa constrictor, lots of monkeys, different types. A jaguar might live in this environment, or a toucan, or a macaw. Do you think you know which environment this is? Let's say it all at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The rainforest. Did you get it right? I'm so happy for you. So the story we're going to read today is all about the rainforest. And this story is called The Great Kapok Tree. And this story is written by Lynn Sherry, and it's a tale of the Amazon rainforest. Now, when we talk about the Amazon rainforest in particular, we're talking about the rainforest, the largest rainforest in South America. So here we live in North America, so we're talking about South America. And one thing I love about this book is that on the inside it actually has a map, and all of the green areas on this map they show the rainforests of the world. So here we are in North America, and we're going to the Amazon rainforest, which is south of North America. It is in South America. And it also shows Africa, Asia, many islands in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean, and parts of Australia have rainforest. So when you hear the animals in this particular book, these are the animals, the plants that live in South America in the Amazon rainforest. So The Great Kapok Tree, written by Lynn Sherry, and it's published by a Gulliver Green book by Harcourt, Brace, and Company. And it has a beautiful introduction in this book that tells us a little bit about the rainforest. I'm going to read that to you. In the Amazon rainforest, it is always hot, and in the heat, everything grows and grows and grows. The tops of the trees in the rainforest are called the canopy. The canopy is a sunny place that touches the sky. The animals that live there like lots of light. Colorful parrots fly from tree to tree. Monkeys leap from branch to branch. The bottom of the rainforest is called the understory. The animals that live in the understory like darkness. They like darkness. There, silent snakes curl around hanging vines. Graceful jaguars watch and wait. And in the steamy environment, the great kapok tree shoots up through the forest and emerges above the canopy. This is the story of a community of animals that live in one such tree in the rainforest. So this is going to be a story about one of those trees, the kapok trees, and the animals that live there. So as you're reading this story today, I want you to think about the rainforest as an environment, a place where plants and animals live. And I want you to have ideas. I want your brain to work really hard about thinking why this environment is so special. Why is the rainforest special? So I need an idea light bulb to show when I have an idea. I can say, I know why the rainforest is special. What you can do at home is you could make a light bulb on paper to show, Miss Kathy, I have an idea. Or another way to do it is to show that there's a light bulb going off in your brain. And you could just point, I know why the rainforest is special. So you have two choices for how to do that today. So as we're reading, we're thinking, why is this environment, the rainforest, so special? Okay, friends, let's read. Two men walked into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with the sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Now, all was as quiet as the Now, all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered, why had they come? The larger man stopped and pointed to a great kapok tree. Then he left. The smaller man took the axe he carried and struck the trunk of the tree. Whack, whack, whack. The sounds of the blows rang through the forest. The wood of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop, chop. The man wiped off the sweat that ran down his face and neck. Whack, chop, whack, chop. Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest at the foot of the great kapok tree. Before he knew it, the heat and hum of the forest had lulled him to sleep. A boa constrictor lived in the kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree. Then the huge snake slid very close to the man and hissed in his ear. Senor, this tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home, where generations of my ancestors have lived. Do not chop it down. I heard the snake say that this rainforest is special because it's where his family has lived for generations. That sounds special to me. A bee buzzed in the sleeping man's ear. Senor, my hive is in this kapok tree, and I fly from tree to tree and flower to flower, collecting pollen. In this way, I pollinate the trees and flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, all living things depend on one another. A troop of monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree. They chattered to the sleeping man. Senor, we have seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree, then come back for another and another. The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rains come, the soil will be washed away, and the forest will become a desert. I heard the monkeys say that the rainforest has trees with roots which keep the soil in place. That's pretty special about the rainforest. A toucan, a macaw, and a cock of the rock flew down from the canopy. Senor, squawked the toucan, you must not cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and seen what happens once you begin to chop down the trees. Many people settle on the land. They set fires to clear the underbrush, and some of the forest disappears. Where once there was life and beauty, only black and smoldering ruins remain. This did make me think that the rainforest is really beautiful and that is something special too. A bright and small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear, Senor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives. You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down this great kapok tree. A jaguar had been sleeping along a branch in the middle of the tree. Because his spotted coat blended into the dappled light and shadows of the understory, no one had noticed him. Now he leapt down and padded silently over to the sleeping man. He growled in his ear, "Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner?" That scares me a little bit. 4 tree porcupines swung down from branch to branch and whispered to the man, "Senor, do you know what we animals and humans need in order to live? Oxygen. And Senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forest, you will destroy that which gives us all life." I heard the tree porcupine say that the rainforest is special because it produces oxygen that we need to live. Several anteaters climbed down the kapok tree with their young clinging to their backs. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, "Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought for the future. And surely you know that what happens tomorrow depends on what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. He does not think of his own children who tomorrow must live in a world without trees." A 3-toed sloth had begun climbing down from the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground, plodding ever so slowly over to the sleeping man. She spoke in her deep and lazy voice, "Senor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest, on what would you feast your eyes?" So I heard the sloth say that the rainforest is very special because it is so beautiful. A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the rainforest knelt over the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear, "Senor, when you awake, please look upon us all with new eyes." The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him, staring, were the creatures who depended on the great kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they all were. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great kapok tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of their flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor. But he heard no sound, for the creatures were strangely silent. The man stood, picked up his axe. He swung back his arm as though to strike the tree. Suddenly he stopped. He turned and looked at the animals and the child. He hesitated. Then he dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest. I love this story, The Great Kapok Tree. It gave me a lot of ideas about what makes the rainforest such a special environment. I took some time to write down some of my thoughts, and I'm going to share them with you right now, about the rainforest, especially the Amazon rainforest, and why it's an important place, and why maybe people shouldn't chop down the trees in the rainforest. Let's take a look. So I wrote up here my title, Protecting the Amazon. If I had more room, I think I would have written Protecting the Amazon Rainforest. I'm sorry I ran out of room, friends. In my passage, I wrote, the Amazon rainforest is an important environment full of diverse plants and animals. Humans need the rainforest because it produces 20% of the world's oxygen. If humans continue to cut down the rainforest, we will lose beautiful plants and animals. What do you think humans should do to protect our rainforest? So this is my full passage that I wrote. And remember when we started reading our book, the question that I wanted you to think about was, what makes the rainforest so special? And, oh, my marker is stuck. I included some of my ideas up here in this poster, and we're going to find them first. So the Amazon rainforest is an important environment full of diverse plants and animals. So I'm saying something special about the rainforest is that it is full of diverse plants and animals. That is something special about the rainforest. Let's keep reading. Humans need the rainforest because it produces 20% of the world's oxygen. That sounds like something else very special about the rainforest. The rainforest produces 20% of the world's oxygen. That's my second idea about why the rainforest is so special. And then I talk a little bit more. If humans continue to cut down the rainforest, we will lose beautiful plants and animals. So something else special is that it is beautiful. It has beautiful plants and animals. So in my writing today, I included 3 ideas about why the rainforest is special. I'm wondering, can you think of anything else, either from our story, The Great Kapok Tree, or from something else you know about the rainforest? Maybe your favorite animal even lives in the rainforest. And then I finish with a question. What do you think humans should do to protect our rainforest? So if we know that the rainforest is so special, we have lots of reasons of why we like it and why we need it, then we should have ideas about how we might protect it. Think about our story, The Great Kapok Tree. What did that man do to protect all of those animals? All of the animals lived in a community, and they all wanted him to stop chopping down the tree. Can you remember some of the reasons? So when we're reading a story, sometimes it's a fiction story, but it has real information in there that we can research more. For example, when I heard the tree porcupines talk about oxygen, I went and I researched how much oxygen the rainforest actually produces. So sometimes a story can inspire us to learn more, and it can help us write a nonfiction piece, an informational text. So thank you very much, friends, for joining me for our beautiful story, for having amazing ideas while we read, and for taking our reading one step farther to make our own text that had information in it. Up next, you're going to learn with Miss Lori more about informational text. Bye, readers. Have a good day.
Hi, friends and writers. Welcome back. I am so glad to be here and excited. I just love the book that Miss Kathy shared with you just a second ago about the Great Kapok Tree, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And this week, we're looking at how do we react to changes in nature. And through this story, we learned about some changes that could possibly happen if we take trees out of the rainforest. So we are going to be talking about a new type of writing. Last week we ended with poetry, but we're moving on to doing some informational reports. And this is probably something that all of you have done this year already. So this is going to be a review of how to write an informational report and maybe think about how to improve upon that and add some more details. So we're going to be talking about informational reports over the next few weeks and how to do that. And you're going to get the opportunity to write an informational report of your very own. So when you start thinking about writing an informational report, I always like to know what it is that's expected of me. And so what we're going to look at is a checklist. I love checklists because that's a way that you can look at the things that make writing great. And things that you need to have in an informational report include, number one, brainstorming on a topic that you are interested in and that you can research using available resources. So we need to take a second and think about what would be an available resource. And resources right now may be a little hard to come by because usually you might go to the public library or maybe you'll go to the library at your school, but those things aren't open right now. So what kind of resources do we have? Well, maybe you have some books at home that are nonfiction because an informational report is something that's written about a nonfiction topic. So you might have some nonfiction books at home that you could use as a resource. And a lot of you may have access to the internet that has the ability, we can get on the web and we can do some searches through some different search engines to identify information around topics that are interesting to you. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about how do we know when we are researching something on the internet whether the place that we've gone is a quality place. So that's the next thing. I selected credible and reliable resources. We're going to talk about that tomorrow and how to identify those. And then we're also going to talk tomorrow about how to take notes. So today we're going to focus on brainstorming topics. But before we do that, I want to go back to this wonderful paragraph that Miss Kathy wrote about the rainforest from the book that she just read, because this is what you are going to be doing except on a topic that you get to choose. So we're going to brainstorm here and think about what other topics we could do. So I have a chart here that I made where we could start our brainstorming. So while I'm thinking about, I've got to find a pen or a marker to write with. Let's see what will show up really well. Let's see, maybe red. We'll try red. So what kind of topics can we brainstorm for our informational report? Oh, you can't see me. Okay, I'm going to move the word of the day over. All right, so now we can see our chart because that's very important. I hope that you have a piece of paper or your writing journal, because in your writing journal you can always do your brainstorming, and then we're going to be doing our planning towards the beginning of next week, and then we're going to be actually doing some drafting and things. So you're going to want to put that all in your writing journal. So I forgot to ask you to get that out at the beginning. So if you go get that now, that'll be great. It'll be a place for you to put your thinking. You can write down what we write down up here, and then hopefully you'll add some things yourself. So the first thing that, the first topic I think that we should add would be the Amazon, because that is something that we learned about today from that wonderful story that Miss Kathy wrote. So I'm going to write Amazon. And I'm just going to put rainforest next to it so that we know exactly what part of the Amazon that we want to be looking at. Oop, my paper's going to fall down. Okay, So the Amazon rainforest, oops, I forgot an N too. You know, if I was in class, I know you guys would have helped me by pointing that out, that I forgot the N. Okay, so we have the Amazon. What else could we write an informational report on? Let's think about that. I like to learn things like about the weather, right? So we could look up some stuff on weather. I'm going to put weather. And the weather actually is a really big topic. So there's lots of different things that we could study about the weather. So I'm going to write those to the side just so that I have some choices. So let me think. What are some of the things that we could be writing about that has to do with the weather? Well, today, at least here where I am outside, it's beautiful and sunny. So we have sunny weather. And it is spring here in New Mexico. And when it's spring here in New Mexico, along with the beautiful sunny weather, what do we get? I'm going to let you think about that for a second. We get a lot of wind, right? We get wind. So we have wind. And then I always think of rain. And then, of course, in the winter we have snow. So those are different kinds of weather that we could maybe research if that's something. And a part of it, what I also wanted to write up here, I love clouds. I like learning about the different types of clouds and going outside and seeing the different kinds of clouds in the sky and being able to name them. So that might be something that I'm really excited about that I want to do my informational report on. Let's see, what's another topic? It has to be nonfiction. Well, think about last week. We were talking about technology, right? So we could take a topic that we already learned about and we could write a report on that. So we could do, I'm going to put technology up here. So technology, and you can think about all the different things, the inventions that we learned about last week. And if you didn't have an opportunity to watch the shows, remember you can always go to the APS YouTube channel and rewatch the shows that we did last week so that you could learn about the technology we talked about and the different types of inventions. Another thing that we could write about that is nonfiction is I love going out at night. And what happens out at nighttime? What do we see out at night? So we see things, I'm going to put the night sky. What are things, friends, that we would see out in the night sky, do you think? I see stars, right? So we could put stars. And what are those other things out in the sky at night that aren't stars? Now remember, you probably learned this somewhere, that stars twinkle. What are those things out in the night sky that are still bright but they don't twinkle? Anybody know? I'll give you a hint. Actually, I'm just going to tell you. Planets. And then there's one other big thing I always see out in the night sky almost every night if it's not cloudy. And last night it was almost full. I bet you guessed it, the moon. And then I'm going to leave number 5 blank because that is the one that you are going to fill in. And you can always add more things that you're interested in because it's always great when you're brainstorming to put as many things down as that you can think of, because when you come back to choose the one that you're most excited about, it might be something that maybe you weren't as excited about when you first put it on your paper, but then you started thinking about it. Okay? So for today, that's all we're going to focus on for our informational writing report. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about websites, and we're going to talk about starting to do our planning. Okay? So thank you so much for joining us for this hour of At Home with APS.